When you're selling on Amazon, expertise can be quite hard to quantify and qualify. In our conversation today, I want to talk to you about the varying degrees or differences between these expertises. When you're running an Amazon business, you need to be an expert in one of three areas. Then any niche area within these, you need to hire out and get tools or experts to get help. Those three areas are finance, operations, and marketing. My name is Stephen Pope, and I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy. This is the My Amazon Guy podcast. We're always looking for that extra special way to grow Amazon sales, and this is more of a contextual podcast, not specific expertise per se, but more of one to ask the question about where do you go for information. So we have a lot of things we could talk about in this conversation. We have a list of third-party services that we recommend on our website. It's in the footer of myamazonguy.com. We'll also put it in the show notes here. I'm going to talk about finance first because it's just the easiest and quickest one. We're going to spend the bulk of our time talking about operations and marketing. So on finance, it's the easiest to speak to and probably the shortest conversation because either you have money or you don't, right? Like you need to obtain said money. And how you finance is up to you. So you use your own funds, you raise the funds, you get the ideas. So there's a lot of financial expertise out there. So if you're going to buy and sell a business, you're probably going to talk to Light Brokerage or another brokerage that sells Amazon businesses. If you haven't got a certified public accountant on hand, you're lacking on that one already. If you don't have a tax expert, sometimes the accountant is the tax expert. Or if you need to hire a business or a service to obtain your financing. So you might use, we just had Kick Further on our podcast the other day. You might need to go to a bank. You might need to use a loan or raise capital or funds to get your Amazon products purchased. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about raising capital to make your business function and run. I am not a financial expert. You should not take financial advice from me. However, I feel like of the three areas of finance, operations, and marketing, finance is the one that I feel most confident in. And I'm saying that because running the agency, financially speaking, it's very good right now for us at My Amazon Guy. And that's, quite frankly, because we're selling the shovels to everybody else who's digging the gold out of the mountain. And the guys that sold shovels during the San Francisco gold rush, they did quite well for themselves. Now, the guys selling shovels like us, we're not going to be finding that giant gold nugget in the mountain, but we're going to sell a lot of shovels. And that's a good business to have. But for a lot of businesses who are trying to sell on Amazon, not all of them are going to find the gold nugget to get rich. Some are just typical scrappy small businesses that just do what they need to do to make a buck and survive. And that is probably more common than most people think. But if you don't have a good financial background, so I've got an MBA, I took the financial classes, I know how to run a P&L, I've had practice doing it at corporations, but I wouldn't necessarily know the first thing about raising capital. I've never personally raised capital. I've never gone out and tried to get a loan. I've always just started small and used that to snowball into my next experience. So I'm really good at that. I'm really good at being agile. I'm really good at trying to figure out how to take that $100 I made today and turn it into $200 next week or whatnot. So you got to figure out on the financial spectrum, like where you are skilled and where you're not, and just act accordingly. So that's all I want to talk about on finance. I want to shift to operations next. And so if you're looking at operations, sort of things we're talking about here include your warehouse, your logistics, and your manufacturing. So on the warehouse front, most Amazon sellers have given up their warehousing responsibility in the form of FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just kind of a fact we have to talk about because if if your IPI score is below 500, or you're launching a new product and you can't send more than 200 quantity in, there's factors that are outside of your control that you will pay the price on in 2020, especially during Q4 when everything's ramping up. And so it behooves you, especially if you're operationally excellent, to take control of this category. And if you're looking for expertise on operations, it's, you can talk to a sourcing agent if you're going to try and get stuff manufactured overseas, right? Like, sourcing agents are probably the number one thing you're going to hire out for if you don't know how to make a purchase in China or Vietnam or wherever you're manufacturing, textiles in India, whatever it might be. You're going to need to hire a sourcing agent because you won't know who to talk to, and if you do know who to talk to, you won't know how to talk to them. So the sourcing agent would be very, very valuable expertise there. Ironically, we actually refer most of our sourcing to a guy out of Pakistan, and I'm sure he's just a bootstrapping guy that just practiced it a bunch. But yeah, we actually sent it when we've been working with him for 2.5 years. Very cost effective. There are other things to consider when by the way, if you're looking at enterprise level sourcing, the guy I would look at is Norm, the beard guy. We did a very much in-depth podcast on like the 7 secrets of sourcing. It's a very good one to check out. You can just Google Norm, my Amazon guy, 7 secrets of sourcing. Probably one of the best podcasts of information we did this year, in fact, and definitely the best piece of sourcing information I could find on the web right now. 50 minutes of straight up, like, here is how to source stuff. Really, really good stuff at an enterprise level. So there's expertise you could look at for how to obtain goods overseas. And then after you've obtained them, the next step is logistics. How do you get those said goods from third country location into the United States? And that's getting a little bit easier. Amazon has updated the ability in Seller Central to create shipments from overseas, make it a little bit easier to track those goods and whatnot. I was coaching with one of our new clients the other day who had just shipped in 1,000 units out of China. We were one of the last shipments you could make before you were capped at 200. And we only had 4 tracking numbers, but there were like 40 cases. And I was like, this is interesting. Wonder how this is going to work out, right? And so we tried to position Amazon to check it in correctly, and the shipment actually got deleted because they were trying to make a change on the shipment, and then they got the 200 cap, and I was like, well, if I were in your shoes, I would just go ahead and send that shipment in on the deleted one. We made the right call. Things are checking in like normal right now. But if that particular client hadn't hired us for that expertise, they would have made a multi-$1,000 decision in the opposite direction and would have cost them quite a bit. So we paid for ourselves in a single coaching call, which is one of my favorite things to do and add value. But I'm also not a logistics expert. I'm just an Amazon Seller Central expert. And in the context of Amazon logistics, bar none, I'm going to beat anybody on expertise. But I am not the guy you want to hire if you're trying to get your shipment overseas into Amazon. Like, if you're looking for the best rate for freight on board and shipping it by freight overseas, I'm not the guy to talk to. I just know how to make it look good inside of Seller Central so that the shipment arrives in one piece. And I also know, like, the sort of labeling and the packaging and the data naming conventions, right? I would put data under operations. There might be some exceptions to that later when we talk about marketing, but your control of information, your control of your goods, and the information of said goods is very much an operation and mentality to me. How you build your item, your manufacturing, the making of goods. You either want to be an engineer who understands, like, hey, this is a quality piece of good, or you need to be super niched in something that you understand personally, right? So like if you're a power user of said niche item, right? So like I've got a just random pocket knife in my hand here, made by CRKT. Probably bought it for like $5 online. Probably used Camel when it was on sale to track sales. And so I'm using my marketing to get my best deals. Like that's where my forte is, and we'll talk about marketing a lot. But on the operation standpoint, I would have no idea if this was a quality knife. No idea. And so I wouldn't know if the mechanism, if I lock the mechanism here, a lot of knives you could squeeze it and then push it back in. But in this particular one, you actually have to push inward, and it's kind of awkward, right? So not a very, and I don't know if you can hear that clicking sound there. That's me pushing the knife back together. But it actually took me like an hour and a half to figure out how to close my knife. And I've got 3 kids under 5, so like I had to figure that out, right? I couldn't leave that hanging around on a desk somewhere. But I feel incompetent when it comes to anything with my physical hands, right? Like if you're putting me on the keyboard, I type like 100 words per minute. I'm a speed demon. And I, go through 500 emails a day all day long. But the second you say, hey, here's some 2x4s and some nails and a hammer and go build me something, like I'm out. Like that's, you don't want to hire me to do that. That is not something that will look pretty, or even passable. Like wouldn't even get, I couldn't even get like a D. I couldn't even get C's, get degrees on anything required to build an item physically. So if you're trying to figure out if your item can pass inspections or if your item is quality, I'm not the guy to talk to. There are many experts out there who would fill that expertise in a moment's notice. They would be able to look at something, go hire an engineer and be like, hey, is this a quality good? How do I know it's a quality good? And whatnot. They are going to be all over that. Now, many of you do not have the budget to hire experts in some of these fields, and you're going to bootstrap it. There's nothing wrong with that. But at a scale of no return, one of my famous coined phrases of the year, you're going to have to hire expertise in here because the payout for doing so will be valid. And if you don't, you may spend thousands of dollars in mistakes. So, for example, if you listen to the podcast from Norm, the beard guy, he talks a lot about how his Chinese manufacturer took a little bit of change to the developed item that he made. And I'm speaking from memory here, but basically I want to say it was like a wet wipe with alcohol in it. And if you had taken this liner out, it made the package leak. And so he had an entire container load of leaky product that he had to throw away. And so that like one inspection issue cost, $20,000 or more probably. So when you consider expertise at scale, it pays for itself, even though it's extra money on your bottom line that you're taking away. So something to consider on that front. All right, so that's about the amount of expertise I feel comfortable with talking on the operations standpoint. And I'm going to spend the bulk of my remaining time talking about marketing. And this is the area that I feel most comfortable with. I've had over a decade of e-commerce marketing experience. So I've done everything from selling subscription models with higher education. I've done everything on... So recently I had my Pixels have stopped working. Google sends out an update and just totally bricked my phones. Both mine and my wife's, both bricked. And so I ended up buying a new Samsung S20 Note, which is on the higher end of phones. But some of the basic things I want to do on it, I'm on like, what is this, day 3? Yeah, day 3. Just trying to optimize this thing has been rough. So I've got that on silence now. But that was the wife calling to tell me that our 2 toddlers are running back and forth to their rooms, trying to sneak back and forth and whispering about how mommy doesn't know what they're doing. So when all of us are at home trying to run our business, right, trying to shoot a podcast or trying to do run the numbers for the business or put in that reorder, you always have that obligation that could interfere in doing that. And that's the beauty of e-commerce these days. I love it. It brings me back a little bit to like how small business used to be run, right? So like you'd have a whole family living above the business, and let's say you're running a restaurant and the kids are running around and doing homework in the kitchen or whatever. I have a lot of fondness for that, and actually I kind of hope the country brings that back. As we try and hope to see Made in the USA come back. I hope we see that change. Obviously, there's a lot of broken things in the country, and I'm veering down a rabbit hole right now. But the fact is, college is too expensive, healthcare is too expensive, and I think the way to solve a lot of our structural problems in this country is to bring it back to family units and run small businesses. Now, some of you are nodding your heads and be like, yeah, and others of you are probably like, well, he's crazy. But that's my preaching for the night. So, all right, so marketing. So there's various different subjects within the marketing expertise. You got design, imagery, traffic, SEO, PPC, agencies galore in this space. And so I have sold everything from women's plus size clothing, gold and silver coins, kitchen equipment, and more, all on the corporate side before I started my Amazon guy. And then I side hustled a bunch over the years and picked up enough business where I was like, okay, I'm gonna go out on my own and make my own thing. And started hiring college kids and teaching them some of my processes and just documenting SOPs. And now here we are in October of 2020, and I'm a 30-person business doing exceptionally well. And we've been able to replicate growth for 100 plus clients. It's been going quite well. Now, not every product is as easy and straightforward, right? Like for those that are loyalists who have listened to a lot of my podcasts, you know that I don't recommend launching in supplements, and I think beauty is super competitive as well. But there are many things you can do right or wrong when it comes to marketing. And in my opinion, if you hire an agency, they generally should do one of two things or both for you. These are things that we do for our clients at my Amazon guy, and that is grow your traffic and improve your conversion rates. Now, it is 10 times easier, in my opinion, to grow your traffic 2x versus it is to increase your conversion rate 2x. And we optimize for both, but we are pretty heavily focused on traffic more than we are on conversion, because Amazon has solved most of the conversion elements. When you sell on Amazon as an Amazon seller, they've already solved for a checkout funnel. They already are speedy quick on that buy now button. They've already collected the user's information, so you can just immediately check out, and one single button click can be done with it, right? So like, there's no friction to the checkout process. There's no anxiety. Do I trust Amazon with my credit card? Like, all of that is already solved for, and generally speaking, solved in the customer's mind years ago. So because of that, it behooves you, in my opinion, to focus on traffic generation. But the small things I will talk about on the conversion front are generally focused to design and imagery. And so if you have a really good main image that's cropped well, for example, making sure there's no white space at the top and the bottom of your product, it will look bigger in the search engine, leading to more clicks. So not only does a design element like your photo help with conversion rates, it also brings more people to the listing, which helps traffic. So almost everything we talk about on the conversion side has a traffic play in as well. Some exceptions to that might be price, although you can see the price before you get to the listing. So maybe there's some things that have maybe like secondary images, which wouldn't generate traffic. But even A+ content, a very heavy focused traffic and design generation rather, has a traffic implication because you put keywords behind the photos. And although Amazon claims we don't index A+ content, we know they totally do because we've tested it. We've put a couple Spanish keywords in the A+ content alt text, didn't put them anywhere else, and sure enough, it indexed. So we're pretty confident on that. Amazon lies sometimes. Yeah, I went out and said it. Bit the hand that feeds me. So when you're qualifying expertise in some of these areas, there are many, many agencies out there. So if you're trying to hire Philippines talent because you need extra bodies on hand, you might want to check out onlinejobs.ph or FreeUp, right? If you're hiring a product service because you want to send automated emails to your consumers on Amazon, you should check out Feedback Whiz. If you're doing keyword research on Amazon, you're probably going to want to look at Helium 10 or Jungle Scout. And if you're looking at product research or items, niche hunting, and all that good stuff, Helium 10 and Jungle Scout are definitely, bar none, better than any other tool on the market. So those are core tools you need to have in your arsenal when you're thinking about running your business on Amazon. But if you need something like photography, I recommend Products on White Photography. They're based out of Chicago. We've done a podcast with them. We've sent probably 45 clients to them, and I've never once heard a complaint, not a single time. And they turn around great, stellar product. So I'm looking at my third-party services I recommend. If you're looking at trying to calculate profit, Seller Legend, pretty solid tool. Sellbrite is a great tool if you're managing your data between marketplaces like Walmart, Etsy, eBay, Shopify, and you're trying to connect it all together and you need to sync your inventory. You might need, maybe you're not ready for an enterprise level tool like Sellbrite. Maybe you just need to ship your stuff out of FBA into Walmart or Etsy and eBay and Shopify. Then ShipStation is a great tool for that. One of the best in class for organizing your shipment tools. Now, on the more complex side, if you're trying to manage your intellectual property, IP Shark might be a service to check out if you're having issues with people showing up on your listings and you don't want them to, right? Like you can use IP Shark or other tools to go after those and combat them. Or organically, you could just Google infringement Amazon and file out the infringement report. It does take a few times to submit it to get it to go through. Ungating a category can be very, very tricky. We have only one time had to hire the funnel guru ourselves, but had a great experience with them, so we do refer out to them. Although we are generally able to make the ungating as part of our core monthly service. So let's say you're selling in beauty, topicals, or toys, or something along those lines that has a gating. You can hire us for launch and full service, and we just take care of the gating as part of our routine process. And all but one time we've been able to do it without support. But even still, sometimes experts hire other experts, almost like a contractor building a house might sublease or subcontract out, rather, a sub-service. But all 30 employees that I have hired are all in-house, no contractors, no hiring outside of our walls. And that's because we like to build our own expertise up and have hands on deck to fight the Amazon catalog, as it were. There's other kind of fun tools you can have. So like here's a random one. I use Crystal as a Google Chrome extension. So if I'm looking at somebody on LinkedIn and I want to know what their personality is, Crystal will like literally look at their personality profile and the words that they use and shoot out some suggestions on like how to communicate with them. Now, I'm not using this on a day-to-day basis. It was more of an intellectual curiosity thing, but I found it to be fairly accurate, surprisingly. So you could check that one out. On accounting side or payroll, Harvest or FreshBooks and Gusto, all great tools to check out if you're trying to run your software or accounting tools. Very, very, very beneficial to use those. If you're trying to raise some capital, Payability would be a good one. We've used them, had some good recommendations on that. Landing Cube is another marketing tool, sometimes very beneficial if you're trying to build landing pages as you shoot people into to Amazon. MassView is another interesting tool where you can give rebates out, formerly known as Snagshout, and you can try and generate reviews and pictures of your product in use. I am personally using MassView right now for my side hustle brand called Momster, and I'm just doing it just to get photos of my product in use. That's the primary reason I'm doing it. So as you can see, I've kind of just shotgunned a bunch of different services we've used for marketing. And whenever you're trying to figure out like, okay, who do I hire to do these things? It's a very difficult task because there's for every, although Amazon services are at an all-time high demand right now, right? Like my phone's ringing off the hook. We've had to raise our prices. We've been more selective of who we've taken on because we're trying to find better fit. With all that said, there's still hundreds and hundreds of agencies out there that do similar things. Now, generally speaking, when somebody hires us at My Amazon Guy, they've already listened to our videos. They're already sold by the time they speak to us. But still, I'll generally get a lot of feedback on some intro calls where they're like, "Yeah, we hired this other agency and they just sucked, and we couldn't grow any sales." And I hear that a lot, and it's because there are a lot of would-be experts out there, and it's really hard to figure out how to qualify them. So one of the things that I have done is I've gone around the circuit of other podcasts, and I've let other people interview us and ask us tough questions. And I've put almost every single one of those podcasts that I've been on. And there's like 20 of them this year, and I put them all on my success stories page. So if you're curious like how other people interact or ask questions about us, you can just go to myamazonguy.com and click on the success stories link in the top there. And it's the full URL is myamazonguy/testimonials. And I've been debating like whether I should split this page out into press and testimonials, but I like putting them both together because at the end of the day, the reason somebody would go to this page is because they're trying to find out, whether we're legit, whether we can do what we say we can do. And our mantra is straight on our homepage: we grow sales. So like if you hire us and we don't grow your sales, you should fire us. Like that's what we're supposed to do for you. Now, there are a lot of clients that we don't grow sales for, but we make their lives easier and we justify our existence, right? Sometimes the product just doesn't move as well as we want it to. We'll apply all the best practices and it just doesn't work out sometimes. And so sometimes I'll go to the client. I'm like, guys, this isn't working. Like we're doing all our best things, but we're not growing sales. And I can't blame you. Like you shouldn't pay us money to do this. And they're like, yeah, but I want to keep trying because you guys are so easy to work with, or you make my life easier and you run all our back office stuff. And so sometimes that happens, and that's a good thing to have. But at the end of the day, where I hang my hat, and where you should hang your hat with agencies, in my opinion, is do they grow your sales? And there's two ways to grow sales, and it's increase your traffic and improve your conversion rate. And if it's anything outside of that, it's not a marketing function. It would be finance or it would be operations. So those are some foods for thoughts. I wasn't sure how this podcast was going to go. I don't know how I feel about it as compared to some of our other podcasts. I really want to shoot some more podcasts with Amazon sellers and do more of my journey series. That's the one I'm enjoying the most of right now. But we've brought on some tools and services over the year to kind of just see, like what people are offering and why they do it, and asking the tough questions like, how does this work? Why should I pay money for this? Does it really work? But Amazon journey stories are definitely something I'm interested in doing more of. We don't have a big queue of pods waiting to go. My number one focus is growing sales for our clients. And so I generally shoot podcasts at night as an afterthought, or if I have a question that continually comes up, or if there's a topic that it's just like, man, I'm so tired of this topic coming up. I'm just going to shoot something on it, or help people. Those are generally, it's a means to an end for me on that front. But the one that I'm very passionate about right now is the Amazon journeys. So I'm gonna try and focus there. I've been trying to invite some more of some sellers that I know who'd be willing to share, what went right, what went wrong, where they're going as a business. So more to come on that front. We'll see what happens. Hopefully you found some value in this. Maybe one of those tools I mentioned, you'll check them out. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section or whatnot. My name is Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy. This is the My Amazon Guy podcast. We help you grow sales. Check us out at myamazonguy.com.